Hey everyone, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to add custom labels to the box plots that you create in the R programming language. So you can see this graph here that we have. It's a good box plot, but we don't know what is the mean of these three different groups. We don't know what is the median of these three different groups, right? We don't know how many observations, right? And maybe we want to add those things in. I'm going to show you how to do it in today's video. But before I get started, I want to point out this is not a beginner video. I am assuming that you already have a basic box plot. If you have no idea how to create a box plot, do not worry. I have a previous video that breaks it down nice and simple. Once you have your box plot, come back to this video and I'll show you how to make those custom labels. Okay, so with that being said, the data set that we're working with in this example is the MT Cars data set. It has a variety of vehicles and their attributes. So how many cylinders does the engine have? What is the miles per gallon? And what we want to do, we want to actually put the average miles per gallon by cylinder onto this graph. Now, the way that we do that, so this command right here, this is what we've talked about in previous videos. This creates a basic box plot for us. Now, the way that we add in a custom label is by using stat_summary and then using the fun.data command and passing in the function name. So really, if you look at this, the only thing that you actually need to do, right? This fun_data, that is a R code word. geom_text, again, that is for R. The only thing that you need to do is to create the function that tells R, what am I putting in this plot? So that is where we need to create our function before we start the plotting. So I'm calling my function box_stats, right? The name isn't super important as long as you use the same name up here that you use down here in the function. So I'm calling mine box_stats and I am creating a function. Inside of this function, I'm passing in X, right? This is essentially telling R, this is the values that you're going to be working with, right? This is what you're going to be doing your calculations on. So I'm passing in X and then I'm telling it to create a data frame. Now, this data frame is containing two different elements. The first is Y. The only reason we're using Y is because it's determining the position. It's saying, where am I going to put this label on an XY coordinate system, right? So this again here, this is just telling it about the positioning. Now, label is where we actually tell it what we want to add in. And there's two parts of this label command. The first is text, right? So whatever we are putting here inside the quotation, it is going to put that literally on the plot, right? So if I put mean equals, it's going to type mean equals. This is just text. It doesn't adjust to our values. It doesn't do any calculations. To actually do the calculations, we put a comma and then we type the calculations that we're wanting. So in this first example, let's suppose that I want the mean values. The way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to do mean of X. Now keep in mind, we are separating this plot by the cylinder of the engine, right? So we're going to calculate a separate mean for the 4-cylinder cars, for the 6-cylinder cars, for the 8-cylinder cars, right? So we want the mean of X. Now, if we ran it just mean of X, that would be fine. But we're going to round it to 1 decimal place just to make things easier. And we are going to create that function. Now, in and of itself, that function, it does nothing. We actually need to put it down here into this stat summary. Now, what you'll notice when we do that, it gives us exactly what we're looking for. Now, a couple things I want to show you just so you have a better idea what's going on. When I said that this Y is just adjusting the position, let me show you what happens if I go with a -5 instead. Oops, let's go ahead and run this and let's do this. It is going to bring it down, right? So you might have to play around with that, right? Depending on your data, depending on what's going on, you might want to move that up or down. For our purposes, this +1 is going to be perfectly fine. So let's run that. Let's run that. Okay. Okay, now let's suppose that I want to add in some additional labels. Let's suppose I want a count of the number of observations for each of these box plots. The way that I'm going to do that, I'm going to add a comma, and then I'm going to put in the textual information, so COUNT. And remember, we need to actually specify the calculation that we want to do. So in this example, I'm going to do LENGTH. and I'm going to pass in the length of x. So this is just going to go through, it's going to count all of the observations for each of these different box plots. Now, one thing I do need to point out is that if I just run it like this, it's going to put all of this on the same line. If I want to do this as a new line, I need to use the escape character. So let's go with backspace N. And what that's going to do, it's going to move it to a new line. And if we run this, what you'll notice, it now has that additional information. So the key takeaway from this video is that you can add whatever labels you want. You can add in standard deviation, you can add counts, whatever you want. You just need to specify it inside of your function. Now, I want to point out that we can actually check all of this. We can make sure our calculations are correct. So the way that we would do that is, again, you don't need this. This is just showing you that what we did here was accurate. So we're going to go with empty cars. We're going to group by cylinders, and we're going to go with MPG. Essentially, all this is doing is just checking our work. So the 4-cylinder cars, the mean should be 26.7, which it is. The 6 cylinders, 19.7, and then 15.1. So that's just a check to make sure that when we are creating this function up here, we did it correctly. So yeah, I hope the video was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.